Part 2. The Bed of Procrustes. With a brave heart, Theseus walked on, keeping the sea always upon his right. Soon he left behind the old city that was his home, and came to the great marshes, where the ground sank under him at every step, and green pools of stagnant water lay on both sides of the narrow path. No fiery dragon came out of the reeds to meet him, so he walked on until he came to the rugged mountain land. For days he kept up a steady pace, till Athens was not more than 20 miles away. But now the roads were only a narrow path winding among the rocks and up and down many a lonely wooded glen. Theseus had seen worse and more dangerous roads than this, and so he strode onward, happy in the thought that he was near the end of his long journey. But it was very slow traveling among the mountains, and he was not always sure that he was following the right path. The sun was almost down when he came down to the broad green valley, where the trees had been cleared away. A little river flowed through the middle of this valley, and on either side were grassy meadows where cattle were grazing, and on a hillside close by, half hidden among the trees, there was a great stone house with vines running over its walls and roof. While Theseus was wondering who it could be that lived in this pretty but lonely place, a man came out of the house and hurried down to the road to meet him. He was a well-dressed man, and his face was wreathed with smiles. And he bowed low to Theseus and invited him kindly to come up to the house and be his guest that night. "This is a lonely place," he said, "and it is not often that travelers pass this way. But there is nothing that gives me so much joy as to find strangers and feast them at my table and hear them tell of the things they have seen and heard. Come, good sir, and sup with me, and lodge under my roof, and you shall sleep on a wonderful bed which I have, a bed that fits every guest and cures him of every ill." Theseus was pleased with the man's ways, and as he was both hungry and tired, he went up with him and sat down under the vines by the door. "Now," said the man, "I will go in and make the bed ready for you, and you can lie down upon it and rest. Later, when you feel refreshed, you shall sit at my table and sup with me, and I will listen to the pleasant tales I know you will tell." When he had gone into the house, Theseus looked around him to see what sort of place it was. He was filled with surprise at the richness of it, at the gold and silver and beautiful things with which every room seemed to be adorned, for it was indeed a place fit for a prince. While he was looking and wondering, the vines before him parted, and the fair face of a young girl peeped out. "Noble stranger," she whispered, "do not lie down on my master's bed, for those who do so never rise again. Fly down the glen and hide yourself in the deep woods before he returns, or else there will be no escape for you." "Who is your master, fair maiden, that I should be afraid of him?" asked Theseus. "Men call him Procrustes, or the Stretcher," said the girl, and she talked low and fast. "He is a robber. He brings hither all the strangers that he finds traveling through the mountains. He puts them on his iron bed and robs them of all they have. No one who comes into this house ever goes out again." "Why do they call him the Stretcher? And what is this iron bed of his?" asked Theseus. Did not tell you that it fits all guests?" whispered the girl. "Most truly it does fit them, for if a traveler is too long, Procrustes hews off his legs until he is in the right length. But if he is too short, as in the case of most guests, then the terrible bed stretches the poor traveler's limbs and body until he's long enough. That is why men call him the Stretcher. But hark, I hear him coming." As the girl quickly withdrew, the vine leaves closed over her hiding place. The next moment, Procrustes stood in the door, bowing and smiling as though he had never done any harm to his fellow man. "My dear young friend," he said, "the bed is ready and I shall show you the way. After you've taken a pleasant little nap, we will sit down at the table, and you may tell me of the wonderful things you have seen in the course of your travels." Theseus arose and followed his host, and when they had come into an inner chamber, there, surely enough, was the bed. The frame was made of iron, very curiously wrought, and upon it a soft mattress seemed to invite him to lie down and rest. But Theseus, peering about, saw the axe and the ropes with cunning pulleys lying hidden behind the curtains. "Now, my dear friend," said Procrustes, "I pray you lie down and take your ease, for I know that you have travelled far and are faint from want of rest. Lie down, and while sweet slumber overtakes you, I will take care of that no disturbing noise, nor buzzing fly, nor vexing gnat disturbs your sleep." "Is this your wonderful bed?" asked Theseus. "It is," answered Procrustes, "and you need but to lie down upon it, and it will fit you perfectly." "But you must lie upon it first," said Theseus, "and let me see how it will fit itself to your stature." "Ah, no," said Procrustes, "for then the spell would be broken," and as he spoke his cheeks grew ashy pale. "But I tell you, you must lie upon it," said Theseus, and he seized the man around the waist and threw him by force upon the bed, and no sooner was he prone upon the couch than curious iron arms reached out and clasped his body and held him so that he could not move hand or foot. The wretched man shrieked and cried for mercy, but Theseus stood over him and looked him straight in the eye. "Is this the kind of hospitality you offer all your guests?" he asked. Procrustes answered not a word. "Is it true," said Theseus, "that you have lured hundreds of travelers into your den only to rob them and make them fit your iron bed? Tell me, is this the awful truth?" "It is true," sobbed Procrustes. "And now kindly touch the spring above my head and let me go, and you shall have everything that I possess." But Theseus turned away. "You are caught," he said, "in the trap you set for others and for me. Should there be mercy for the man who shows no mercy?" And Theseus went out of the room and left Procrustes to the mercy of the terrible device. Theseus looked through the house and found gold, silver, and many costly things that Procrustes had taken from the strangers who had fallen into his hands. He went into the dining hall, and there indeed was the table spread with a rich feast of meats and drinks and delicacies such as no king would scorn. But there was a seat and plate for only the host, and none at all for the guests. Then the girl whose fair face Theseus had seen among the vines came running into the house. She seized the young hero's hands and thanked him warmly. "Only a month ago," she cried, "my father, a rich merchant of Athens, was traveling and I was with him, happy and carefree as any bird in the green woods. This robber lured us into his den, for we had much gold with us. My father, he stretched upon his iron bed, but he made his slave." Then Theseus called together all the people in the house, poor wretches who Procrustes had forced to serve them, and he divided the robbers' spoils among them and told them that they were free to go whenever they wished, and wherever they wished. In the morning Theseus went on through the narrow, crooked ways among the mountains and hills. At last he came to the plains of Athens and gazed out over the noble city, and in its midst he saw the white walls of the palace of the king.